We are live, everybody, with our post-daily news update for Tuesday, November the 30th. I am John Pollock alongside Wai Ting, and the joys of being live are being fully felt today. Hello, Wai.
Hello, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing tremendous. An outstanding day and lots to talk about with you. Off the top, Wai, are you ready to have some chats of the super variety?
Yeah, of course. Yesterday we received our very first super chat, so completely unprompted. So thank you for that. But today we are going to prompt you guys. If you want to leave a super chat with a question or a comment that you want to add to any of our stories, we're going to be taking them throughout the broadcast, and at the end of our news stories, we will answer them if the questions are appropriate. Of course, we're not just going to answer any sort of question about our favorite brand of um deodorant or anything like that. Maybe we'll answer something like that. But if it's an inappropriate question, we might not. But otherwise, if you want to leave a super chat for us, we're going to try something, a Q&A session a little bit at the end if we get any of those. So without further ado, John, maybe we should dive right into the stories.
Yeah, there's quite a few here. So let's go back to last Wednesday, Thanksgiving Eve. Dynamite ended up doing 898,000 viewers, a 0.31 in the 18 to 49 demo, finishing sixth for the night. So they were down 9% in total viewers, 15% in 18 to 49. So, I mean, it was a drop, no doubt, for Dynamite. It was their lowest 18 to 49 number since May. However, when you look at where they were hit in 2019 and 2020, the losses in those 2 years on Thanksgiving Eve were significantly higher. Last year, they were down 30% in the demo and 16.5% in total viewers. And in 2019, they dropped 25% in viewers and 33% in 18 to 49. So it was a lot less this year. They were going against the NBA game between Golden State and the Boston Celtics, and their 18 to 34 number was actually up 5%. So I think all things considered, Wai, that this at least was the drop people expected, and it's kind of compounded by the whole West Coast viewership change where they are going live. That said, they're not against NXT like they were in past years, but I would say to do a 0.31 and 898,000 viewers, I would be happy that the loss was significantly less. Like they dropped like their declines by more than half from prior years on Thanksgiving Eve. It's not a great night for television.
Yeah, I think when it comes to, these types of holidays, all you really look for is improvement year over year, and it seems like they achieved that this time. So I would say maybe to be expected, given the current wave of somewhat popularity compared to last year. So I suppose this would be looked at as a win for AEW.
Yeah, an interesting note in Canada, where Thanksgiving is not a factor for last week's show, was that they did 133,000 viewers on TSN 5. They were on 5 instead of TSN 2, and 86,000 in the 25 to 54 demo, which is the main demo monitored in Canada. So for last week, between Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, Raw was the most watched, but AEW was the top in the 25 to 54 demo. So that was an interesting note from last week. And Brandon Thurston noting that last Thursday's episode of Impact that aired on Thanksgiving night itself, with an entire show dedicated to Wrestle House, did 48,000 viewers and a 0.01 in 18 to 49, which translates to 13,000 viewers. It would be their lowest numbers since launching on Access in late 2019. And yes, Thanksgiving is a terrible night. I think this also is a signal. Like when I was about to watch Impact on Thursday, I thought Wrestle House 2 was going to be spread out throughout the show in segments. When I realized that was the whole episode, I made the judgment call. I do not need to see this show. So I think this is also a bit of a failure of the concept, but Thanksgiving is obviously going to be a major impact, pardon the pun, on the actual holiday itself.
Yeah, it seems difficult, and I guess not that much interest for the concept.
Let's move on over to Japan, because there are new travel restrictions in place coming out of the awareness of the Omicron variant. And this is from the Japan Times, that they are banning all incoming foreign travelers for the next month. This went into effect on Tuesday, and restrictions will affect new entries, including foreign exchange students, interns, and those traveling for business. It will not affect Japanese nationals or foreign residents returning to the country. But those that are returning where the variant has been reported will have to quarantine for a specific number of days. Now, since that time, the president of New Japan, Takami Obari, has commented regarding what his understanding is as it would relate to foreigners coming in for New Japan, and stated to Tokyo Sports that under the current rules, I've heard that foreign wrestlers that have visas to work in Japan will be treated as re-entry. And this has been confirmed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. So if you take it from what Takami Obari is stating, it looks like those that have their visas, they will be okay to get into Japan. And I guess the number one question that surrounded was Will Ospreay, who is in the main event for the second night of Wrestle Kingdom. But this is the travel restrictions that are in place for at least a month in Japan with the news of the variant.
Yeah. I mean, it's concerning globally, and I think it's maybe a positive that we're seeing Japan take some very proactive steps to try to contain it before it gets worse. Of course, it's terrible news for any sort of wrestling company or any sort of business looking to do it, some international or having some international employees come in. So hopefully for New Japan, their guys are all have their visas and are excluded from this.
Yeah, but I think it's just a reminder that there are going to be variants. This one seems to be very concerning. It was only detected last week, and you're seeing the reaction from many different countries already. That this is, I think, just going to be a way of having to have this contingency in your planning, that things like this are going to occur, and long-term planning is going to be difficult because you never know when something is going to arise and how that's going to impact plans, which is not the be all end all. But for a company that is still very much reliant on their big shows delivering, that's going to be a reality for the next year to come, and it might be for years to come as well.
And how will it impact ticket sales and fan interest?
Yeah, like that's the other question, is like what restrictions are still going to be in place come January for live events, and how many tickets you're going to be allowed to sell to the Tokyo Dome and Yokohama Arena. Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, they have announced the annual Battle of Los Angeles tournament for January 29th and 30th at the Globe Theater in Los Angeles. And they're only doing 2 nights for this one, and also moving it from the usual Labor Day weekend to January. This will be the same weekend as the Royal Rumble. And like on the surface way, I think it's kind of interesting that they are contracting the nights when in theory, like PWG could have in theory, like their pick of many names that are out there, but they're opting to go for just 2 nights instead of 3, when the pool seems to be really large that PWG could grab from. And I think it's just interesting to see like where PWG kind of fits into the whole sort of independent ecosystem in 2022.
Do you think it has anything to do with Rumble itself? Is it the size of the venue that's changed at all?
No, it's like they're doing their like 650 people or so for these shows. I think that's such a small number that I wouldn't be too like if you can. They have been running shows on pay-per-view nights, and to sell 650 tickets or so, I don't think the Royal Rumble is going to prevent you from running that. I guess the question is for PWG is that one of their big attributes has been like they can book from all over the place, and when you're not streaming, it gave you a lot more flexibility of who you could use. Well, now you're not going to have those same restrictions with Ring of Honor talent. I guess it's a question of certain AEW talent and what they're allowed to do. But we've seen, for certain talents, it's not prevented them from doing GCW shows that are live streamed. Is PWG, and this question always comes up with them about ever changing their model to one where, like, I would think like even a Royal Rumble weekend, I think you would have a lot of demand if you were streaming BOLA live, as opposed to still doing the DVD model or physically traveling to the event. And is the current independent scene going to allow them that we can still book all of this talent and we could do live streaming on top of it? Because that's where I think PWG is kind of at this stage that is something at the very least you could revisit that strategy.
Yeah. Well, I wonder how much buzz there might be for Bola this year, especially if it's going to be on the same weekend as the Rumble, um, or if it's going to be, wait to see what great matches are who, what happens on the shows before people end up talking much about it.
It's kind of PWG. It's sort of like you can follow along on Twitter the night of. That's kind of the experience for PWG. I don't sense that there is going to be a continued growth of, months delayed DVD distribution. That's going to, like, that number is going to climb of people that are going to seek out DVDs. It just seems the wrestling content, it's all about that weekend window. And then once that weekend's over, everybody's looking forward to the next thing, unless something is so spectacular that when it finally is released, people are going after it.
Yeah.
CM Punk is going to wrestle on Dynamite on Wednesday night in Duluth, Georgia. He will be taking on Lee Moriarty, which is an interesting match.
Yeah, definitely. I think, it's perfectly the type of match that you can have for CM Punk to give him another win while showcasing a brand new talent that the audience hasn't seen yet that may, come out of this episode be earning new fans for. So it's going to be an interesting test for Punk.
Yeah, and I guess it'll be interesting on Wednesday to see what is set up for the Long Island show next week and what kind of involvement Punk and MJF would have on that show.
Totally. Absolutely.
TripleMania, here's our latest update. So Fite TV has confirmed that the top 6 matches are going to air on the streaming pay-per-view portion this coming Saturday night from Monterrey, Mexico, headlined by Vikingo, Samurai Del Sol, Jay Lethal, Bobby Fish, and Bandito for the vacant Mega Championship that was vacated by Kenny Omega. The rest of the matches you'll be able to see include Psycho Clown, Cain Velasquez, and Pagano against LA Park, Rey Escorpion, and Taurus. FTR against Pentagon and Phoenix for the AAA World Tag Titles. Dragon Lee and Dralistico against Laredo Kid and a mystery partner. Chessman with Murder Clown and Dave the Clown against Sam Adonis, DMT Azul, and Puma King. And then it will open with a trios match with Porta del Norte, the Vipers, and the Dinamitas. You're going to watch this show? I tried my best. I hope
I think I have some interest in seeing FTR versus the Lucha Brothers if I don't already have my fix from the night prior. And, I am curious about the main event a bit because we've talked about it so much. So maybe those matches.
Mm-hmm. I think this will be one that there is at least some interesting things coming out of it. I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm going to watch it on Saturday night. They've got that. And UFC actually has a really good fight night card with Rob Font and Jose Aldo that I shouldn't have even asked you if you're watching TripleMania when we've got Jose Aldo and Rob Font. If I had $1 for every time Way has, after we've recorded, say, man, what do you think about Rob Font's chances? I mean, we've talked about that fight so often the past month.
Well, maybe this one. I know you're joking, John, but maybe this is when I'll change my mind.
It looks like a very good fight, to be in all honesty. WWE is doing an interesting promotion for its Toronto house show on December the 29th. Where they are the local main event that they are advertising is the main event for day one with Big E, Seth Rollins, and Kevin Owens. And on Tuesday, they confirmed that Trish Stratus is going to host the live event in Toronto at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. So I think it's like a smart way to incorporate someone who is local and might spike some last-minute ticket sales. I don't know what ticket sales are for this show at the Coca-Cola Coliseum. My immediate reaction was that they will fill this place that is so starved for big pro wrestling here in the city, but I don't know what the figures are yet for the Toronto show.
Yeah, I don't know either. I mean, it's on Wednesday, I believe.
It's a Wednesday, so it is the same night as a live Dynamite as well. I don't know if that's going to prevent a fan from going to this event, but for you and me, it's a little difficult.
Yeah, unfortunate. But if you're going, we'd love to know your experience.
And final thing is NXT 2.0 tonight. That is all of a sudden it's the go home show for War Games. And you know what's bigger than one ladder match? 2 ladder matches that will happen tonight. So Kaylee Ray will take on Dakota Kai with the winning member getting the numbers advantage in War Games this Sunday. And then the same deal with the men's match where they will have a ladder match with a member of Team Ciampa against a member of Braun Breaker's team that they have not. They're doing a fan vote for that one. And then we've got Kyle O'Reilly and Von Wagner against Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde. The winners will challenge Imperium this Sunday, and Joe Gacy's all-inclusive invitational.
It just sounds I'm curious, like anytime there's something involving this guy or like some ridiculous idea like poker or something, it always at least somewhat interests me to see what it's going to look like, how awful it may be. So sure, at least we have a full card announced, it looks like, for this NXT.
We've got a fair bit.
Partial.
I mean, the ladder matches will probably take up some time on this show. The tag match will probably get a bit of time as well. And then they just load it with kind of filler matches throughout the show. And that's kind of NXT 2.0 as they go into their first special of the new era. And we'll see what the hype is like for Sunday's show.
Yeah. I think there's always interest in takeover level events. This is obviously not necessarily technically going to be a takeover, but I think it'll be another first major showing for this new NXT. And is this War Games going to live up to some of the other ones?
It's a really high bar that they have to meet, because whether it's named takeover or not, that's going to be the comparison. And I would say for a lot of people that maybe checked out the first week of NXT 2.0, this would be the show that they might check back on to see what this brand is up to and if any of the stuff really connects in some kind of big way. But it's tough. Like, you're coming off like the most well-received series of shows in WWE's history with the takeovers the last 7 years.
Yeah, and what does it mean for somebody like a Johnny Gargano
and Kyle O'Reilly? Those will be two people that are going to be watched very, very closely over the next few weeks.
Want to say hi to a number of people in the chat room. Thank you all for joining us today, including especially Daniel, who again sends us a wonderful super chat, not of any questions, but just of simple thumbs up and clap emojis. So thank you very much for that, Daniel, for that support. And want to say hi to a lot of our usual friends here. Stefan Gosign, our man Neil is in here, Brandon from New Jersey, Bruhavan, MJ from NJ, a lot of the usual. So welcome everybody, and thank you all for joining us. 1:00 at youtube.com/postwrestling every day.
And we are going to be back tonight with Rewind Away number 100. And what are we chatting about on this historic edition of the show?
So we are actually in the midst of recording it, so we have to just break to do this update. But we are talking about Starrcade 1997, featuring Hulk Hogan versus Sting in a very heavily anticipated matchup from that time that ends up going terribly.
Yes, Wai and I were in a mid-discussion about the ending to this historic match between Sting and Hogan. So all of that will be able to be listened to tonight for members at postwrestlingcafe.com. Rewind Away number 100, as we will go through not just Starrcade 1997, but all the news that was happening during that week in history, some letters to the Observer from that particular week in history. And we're also going to hear about Wai Ting, the bad boy of Scarborough, in March of 1998.
I don't know so much about that. Wanted to draw attention. Thank you very much, MJ, for the late super chat here, who says it's nice to be back in the cafe. Yes, very similar, I would say, in a VOD to our cafe hangout days. And then, of course, we have from Brandon from New Jersey, who sends a $10 super chat. Thank you very much, Brandon, who's asked. I'm going to say right now, I don't think Brandon actually cares about the question. I think he's just trying to be supportive. But he asked, when does Kevin Owens' contract run out? Did he sign an extension to do the Day One show?
Well, maybe Brandon could send us his phone number through Twitter if he had more pressing questions. Kevin Owens' contract is not up until the end of January. So the Day One show is not in question. That is from the last report of when his deal is up, end of January.
Thank you for the support, guys. So maybe John and I, we should go back to recording the show right now.
Yes, we've got Starrcade to finish, so look out for that tonight. Once again, at postwrestlingcafe.com. On Wednesday, we'll be back here live at 1 p.m. Eastern time, chatting all of the latest news. And then Wednesday night, we are live at 10:15 p.m. Eastern, right after Dynamite, for Double Ice Cap and Espresso members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. Anything else to mention, Wai, before we sign off?
No, not so much. Listen to all the shows that are out right now. Check out Up Next, of course, that's coming out tonight, and Shot in the Dark on the Up Next feed tomorrow.
All right. Thanks to everyone for tuning in live, and we'll speak with you on Wednesday.